Hello everyone, I'm Armando with VFN Fiberglass, and today we're going to be talking about two of our newer products. These are max clearance hoods.
This is a 94 to 98 Mustang max clearance. This is a 2004 to 2006 GTO max clearance. And what max clearance means is that they're designed to fit high ram intakes, such as a Holley high ram. Typically on most bolt-on hoods, the frame runs directly across here, so it's going to hit the intake and you would have to cut it. But what the max clearance does is we've removed that so that you get maximum clearance right in that area. One thing I wanted to mention is that you might notice that there's no metal plate riveted to the outside of the latch opening. It's become a common feature from aftermarket hood manufacturers, especially Mustang hoods. But we don't. Our hoods do have metal plates, but they're on the inside of the latch opening, where it's less likely to fail. You see, those rivets and the plate are constantly being pulled, so the rivets can eventually fail, which allows the latch to separate the metal plate from under the hood, and then the hood flies off your car. So there's less chance of that happening with a VFN hood. So that's what you could expect from the bottom of the Mustang. Now let's take a look at the underside of the GTO. And there it is. And in both cases, you can see it has a nice show finish underside, which can be painted to give the underside a nice finished look just like the top side. So you get the best of both worlds with these hoods.
This is a 4.5 inch clearance, and today we're going to be installing it on a car.
So here we have our customer's GTO. And one thing I always like to do before installing a hood is just taking a look and noticing the difference in the gaps from side to side. This is a factory installed hood, and even factory hoods, you'll notice sometimes one side might be tighter than the other, and that is actually the case here today. The gaps on this side are going to be tighter than the ones that are on the passenger side. So we have a chance when we put the new hood on to try to correct that and make sure that the gaps look real good. The goal here today is to make sure that when we put our new hood on that we'll have better gaps than what was on the factory hood. So the fiberglass hood is not designed for the washer fluid hoses. What you're going to want to do is get an aftermarket kit that reroutes the hoses to each wiper arm, and then it'll work just fine. They have them available for the Lumina, and that should work just fine for the GTO. Also, we're going to be removing the rubber snubbers. That just slides right out. There's one on each side. And then you have the latch at the front. We're going to be removing that. And our safety latch. That comes out with a cotter pin as well as a pin. You'll just need some pliers to pull that back. So we're going to remove the old pin. And this just threads into our hood. We've added inserts in there, so this just bolts directly back into the new one. And some of these safety pins, this one could be a little tricky, and it might take a little bit of pulling and prying. You may have to tap it like I'm doing here, but the new one goes right into place on our aftermarket hood. We'll remove the rubber snubber just like that. Just slides right out. Now we're just going to back the clip off the gas strut and pop it off. Now we're ready to remove the hood and bring on the new one. I always like to set it into place and just kind of check all the gaps before bolting anything down, making sure everything looks good. What a difference already. There may be some additional sanding needed right around the headlight area if it fits a little too tightly. We leave them a little extra long. The factory hood has no edge, so we've added this slight little edge here, and you may just choose to sand it down a little bit more just to get a tighter fit. If you do, I would suggest a little 180 or 120 on a DA sander, and that'll sand down just fine. Now let's move to bolting it on. All VFN hoods come with the bolts that are needed to bolt it to the hinges. We do not recommend using your factory bolts. They have a different thread count than the ones that we provide. Use our bolts and you'll be just fine. Now it comes to aligning it. And this is where you want to just double check gaps. When I first put a hood on, I put the bolts in, but I only tighten them by hand, so I still can move it back and forth or side to side a little bit if I need to. And that's what we're doing here. That way we could get the front and the back aligned just perfectly and get the right arc that lines up to the fender at the back. And sometimes we leave this just a shade longer. You may just want to trim that down too. But overall, it's going to ensure that you have a hood that fits and that lines up perfectly. We believe in leaving the hood slightly oversized so that you can trim it to fit, which is better than having a hood that's undersized and will never fit properly or line up. Here, before tightening the hood down completely and locking it in place, I'm just double checking my gaps. I'm still able to move the hood from side to side. Once I'm happy with that, we're going to slightly raise it using a helper, and then I'm going to tighten it all down. Once it's all tightened down, we're going to go back, lay the hood down, and we're going to double check our gaps and make sure it didn't move while my helper was holding it. And once that's all done, and we're happy with the gaps, we've double checked it, now we can move on to the next phase. Putting on the gas struts, and then the latch. And the struts just push back into place and the clip locks in. Just give it a tug and make sure that the clip is holding it. And there you have it. All installed, looking good. That completes our install video. Thanks for watching. See you next time.